everyone, welcome for joining us. For those of you with Metro Connect 21, welcome and thank you for joining us. And we're excited to be doing this webinar. If you haven't gone by our meeting room on Metro Connect, Nexusguard is a gold sponsor, and we do have a pretty active meeting room. So stop by that. You can access our threat reports. We have some really cool visuals. Schedule a meeting with one of our cybersecurity specialists or one of our representatives from Nexusguard. Really excited for you guys to be joining us today. I'm Josie Taylor, your moderator, and today's discussion is what CSPs and ISPs need to know about the state of DDoS. We've got three very well-informed DDoS experts with us on our panel today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. First up, we have, I'll do ladies first. We have Vanessa Chen. Vanessa is our Director of Professional Services and Security Operation. She started her career as a computer engineer, having worked with IBM, Sonova, Genesis, and Mercury before pursuing her master's degree in telecommunication. In 2009, Vanessa joined Nexusguard while the company was in its early startup stage, and she's now holding the position as the Director of Professional Services and Security Operations for Nexusguard. So welcome, Vanessa. Excited to have you here.
Well, have you me?
Next, we have Alex. Alex is a veteran in the telecom technology business, having worked for major corporations such as MCI, Quest, TW Telecom, Level 3, and Above Net, all in sales, project management, and leadership roles. Since 2014, Alex has been involved in the cybersecurity space, working for companies like Black Lotus, which is now Lumen, and Nexusguard as a DDoS cybersecurity specialist. And Alex also serves on the board of directors for the Information Systems Security Association and the OC chapter. So welcome, Alex from Cali. Last but not least, we have Xenophon Giannis, also known to everyone as Zen. Zen is a cybersecurity solutions executive who advises the C-level executives of CSPs, MSSPs, and enterprises to assess their cybersecurity risk profile and implement security strategies that protect current revenue and enhance end user experience that leads to increased ARPU. Zen has had a very extensive career in B2B and sales. He led the sales team and exceeded revenue targets for companies such as AboveNet, Black Lotus, Zen Edge, Global Center, and since then, Zen holds a BS in managerial economics from the University of California, San Diego. He lives in San Francisco with his wife and two sons. Welcome, Zen.
Thank you, Josie.
I like your new bio, by the way. And if those who didn't catch it, Zen had a really phenomenal keynote earlier, and he'll be on a panel discussion this week on Thursday. So I'll have to look forward to that. So let's go ahead and kick things off. For those of you that do have questions throughout this, type them into the Q&A, and we'll definitely get to all your questions at the end. We have a couple of different slides that we're going to go through this week. You can access our meeting room, learn more about DDoS security solutions. Like I said, we're doing a big trivia night tomorrow night, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. All of our time zones this week, just so you know, are set like we're in Miami, because that's where our heads are. We did Metro Connect last year in Miami. We had a phenomenal time. So everything this week is all Eastern time zone to match up with our host. So yeah, virtual trivia tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Feel free to join us. You can win an iPad. And if you join us for all of our webinars this week, you will also be entered to win an iPad as well. Let's see. All right, so here we go. We're going to touch on a couple different things. What CSPs and ISPs need to know about the state of DDoS today. So let's kick things off. Let's kind of go around the horn. Lots of stuff going on in the news. DDoS, different attacks. Zen, do you want to kick us off? What have you seen? What have you heard?
Sure.
What's going on?
Sure. Well, 2-3 weeks ago, I would have said DDoS attacks are on the rise, and that we all need to worry about it. But now, as of about 2 weeks ago, DDoS is solved. It's gone. And you know why? Bitcoin. And here's what's going on. What's been happening is because of the rise in, so up until about the end of last year, whatever, they were saying the news would say, okay, Bitcoin, DDoS attacks extorting Bitcoin on the rise, malware extorting Bitcoin on the rise. Most of these attackers, they're basically the way they do a DDoS attack is they basically compromise someone else's computers, basically steal the computer's compute power and their network, and then they send out attacks. Well, what these attackers have now realized, instead of leasing out their botnets and selling them on the dark web so people can go attack people or do it themselves, that it's actually more effective for them to take those compromised machines that are on the botnet, turn them into crypto miners for Bitcoin, and mine the crypto instead of sending DDoS attacks. So an indirect result of Bitcoin going up in value up to $50,000 is that DDoS attacks have gone down because they've repurposed the DDoS networks. So in a roundabout way, yeah, DDoS is solved temporarily as soon as it crashes and it becomes not lucrative to do that. But it just seemed like a unique kind of even in the dark web and with the criminals, they are also looking at the bottom line, like, hey, I can just repurpose this and make some extra money. So that was the newest news, which kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I wasn't expecting that. But I mean, besides that, I mean, what we've been seeing normal trends is that attacks are on the rise and gaming has been getting hit a lot. Like Blizzard and folks like that, because of all the COVID, people are home, people are playing, they're not going out bar hopping or whatever, they're basically playing. I mean, Josie, didn't you take up for League of Legends or whatever with your headset and your helmet?
I took up Call of Duty. Thank you very much.
Call of Duty, that's right.
Yes, but that was something that was the newer news, the recent news before the Bitcoin news, is that gaming, especially online gaming, and home DDoS attacks have increased. It's become a huge hotbed for things getting DDoS. And Alex, you said that people will call you guys up and say our house has been DDoSed. And what do you say to that?
Yeah, we had a few instances where consumers, residential customers would call us and say, hey, I'm getting DDoS. I know who it is. What can you do for me? And unfortunately, we are a business to business DDoS protection type of solution. So our recommendation always is for them to go to their ISPs, but ISPs don't really handle DDoS attacks at that level,
Right.
So,
well, when you're talking about your threat report from last year and in the past years, and Vanessa, I'd love to get your opinion on this. What are some of the trends that you've seen in the last couple of years from an operations angle?
From operation angle, what we are seeing is last year, beginning of the year, when everyone are being put at home and work from home, we do see some increase in attack. But at the end of the 2020, we are seeing a reduction in the attack frequency itself. And ISPs, at the beginning of the year, they experience a lot of copy bombing attack. And on a daily basis, they may be getting like hundreds and even thousands of attack events. But at the end of the year, we have seen a reduction in this. And this could be like what Xenophon said, become a rise and botnet is being repurposed. That could be one of the reasons. And we are also seeing that from enterprise, like university network, when it's on holiday, like December, and the network are not under so frequent of attack. But when students are back to school, the attack frequency also increase. So some of the trends that we are seeing right now compared to 2019, the volume of attack definitely has some reduction, but the frequency of attack, because of the copy bombing become more frequent, you will see the events per host, per IP itself, in fact, increase.
Wow. So when you talk about then mitigation methods. I guess Alex, I'll throw this to you. Where are you seeing towards, once you get the attack, what are you seeing as the best ways to and methods to mitigate these DDoS attacks?
So what we've traditionally seen ISPs do, from the most basic form of mitigation to the more sophisticated, complex methods, is black holing, what is called black holing, and in essence, you're throwing all the traffic, good or bad, into a hole, and it stops affecting your entire network. So the affected customer is out of luck. They're
Right.
basically offline when you do something like that. So you have the risk of losing that customer. They'll no longer be a customer eventually if enough of that happens. And then from there it goes into more of a BGP flow spec method, where it's more granular. It's still not at the complexity level of what you find with specific DDoS appliances and solutions, but at least gives you a little bit more control of what type of packets you're filtering out. And then I think what most ISPs see today is clean pipe, either from their upstream or they provide that type of service themselves. And in essence, they're selling DIA or IP transit that's DDoS protected, either through an appliance or a cloud-based protection solution. And the internet pipe or access is protected from DDoS attacks. So that's what you find most of the time with ISPs. There are other ones that like to have more control, and so they buy an appliance that they install locally, and then they can protect their network and provide clean pipe service to their downstream customers, or residential, commercial, enterprise customers as well. So that's another method. And then the last one is like a hybrid solution, where you have an appliance and it handles all of the attacks locally up to the capacity of that appliance. But then as soon as the attack exceeds the local capacity, you can offload that traffic or malicious traffic over to a global cloud scrubbing center, like we provide, Nexusguard. So that is something that can be done. Vanessa and I talk about this a lot with our customers, but there are basically two different types. There's the do-it-yourself DIY hybrid, right, where you slap it together, try to make sense out of that, and you have an appliance and a different cloud provider, and you have to still hire people to manage that and put it together. And then there's what we call true hybrid, where it's a single platform where you have a local appliance plus a global infrastructure plus the people that help support that. So that's what we're seeing today.
Well, and Vanessa, from a solutions and operations perspective, what do you think most solutions are preferred?
Thank you. So coming from operation angle, since we are really at the front line of fighting over DDoS attack, and operation in Nexusguard, when we are looking at how we can most effectively deal with DDoS problem, we see three key elements. One is the technology itself, and whether the platform that we have is equipped with the capability to effectively doing the detection of the attack and also mitigation of the attack itself. But on top of this detection and mitigation, since we are offering the service to our customer, we need a very comprehensive reporting back to our customer. So the technology must be able to do all these three. And on top of that, we need an infrastructure to deal with attack at various sites. The infrastructure cannot be just a single scrubbing center. It needs to be distributed, because in a scrubbing center, we maybe join the customer traffic to only one location, introduce additional latency. And the third one that we definitely need is the people itself. Although technology can be there, but attacks are also evolving. Attackers are changing the attack pattern itself, and technology will need time to develop it. So people come into the picture when there is this 10% of problem that require expertise from coming from operation. So for different organization, whether you will need all three or only selective one, it really depending on your requirement. Some of the organization can only cater the scrubbing within the country because of data sovereignty issue. Then the cloud portion of distributed infrastructure to deal with attack may not be that useful for them. But we see that if you do have the flexibility and really consider these three elements and combine them and deliver the most effective solution to your customer.
Wow, that's fantastic. So now that you understand the mitigation side, so that kind of turns into, you know, the productizing and monetizing. So then why should CSPs be looking into monetizing and productizing DDoS? Like where you were then and where you are now, why should they be doing that?
What I usually say is this, that whether or not you productize it or try to monetize it, you're going to have to do it anyway, because one of your customers is going to force you to do it. So traditionally, ISPs, you have to have some kind of DDoS strategy for yourself. You cannot have, you know, I mean, and this is for the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years. That's what, you know, all of the ISPs went out. They got some kind of box, some kind of detection, so they could either null route, as Alex said, or you know, just get the attack off the network. They didn't want, they didn't necessarily. Wasn't about protecting customers. It was about protecting collateral damage, meaning that one customer gets attacked, it knocks out your router, and then, you know, you got to give 1,000 customers SLA credits, and then you churn a bunch of revenue, and everybody's unhappy. So the network engineers who primarily run that, that's their responsibility, is keep the network up. They went out and bought whatever kind of DDoS mitigation or monitoring. And then, as what Alex was saying, you know, you go to clean pipe. Well, it really simply lends itself to being able to, okay, I'm protecting myself. I have a customer. I can say to the customer, okay, Mr. Customer, everything that I give you on this pipe, on this port, has been at least analyzed and tested. It should be clean. Like, it's not necessarily I'm giving you full protection against everything, but I'm not going to give you, you know, it's almost like it's not unfiltered, you know, like when, you know, they say like street power, which will always burn up your machines. You want filtered power where it's nice and clean power. So you're saying, okay, your internet's going to be at least clean enough, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily productization either. That's just, you know, kind of just taking it one step further. You know, but what happens is now customers are becoming much more astute. 10 years ago, you were explaining to a customer what DDoS was and why they needed it. Now customers are coming to you and saying, look, Mr. ISP, I need DDoS protection and you need to fix it. And oh, by the way, if you don't, I can't go with you. That's a deal breaker. You know, I have to go. The bid requires DDoS. And it might be because if they're a bank, it's compliance. If they're a financial, if they're education, all this at-home learning now, they can't afford to have some kids DDoS in the network because they don't want to do their homework and taking out the entire school. So, you know, a lot of these like E-rate programs, it's a requirement for you know, to have DDoS, kind of like a firewall. They're saying, okay, we need this, otherwise we're out of business. And so a lot of these ISPs, for example, ISPs that normally would sell to XYZ educational, you know, school or entity, every year we're going to buy the internet from you again. I need it to have DDoS this time. And if the ISP doesn't have it, then they go, okay, well, then we have to put it out to bid. So now your embedded revenue is at risk, right? So you, let's say that was a solid 10,000 a month. All of a sudden now that's gone. or it's at risk and your competitor that has it. So what are you going to do? You get a couple of those and your CEO goes, what's going on? Fix it, get some DDoS or whatever so I can sell this, right? They don't care. Don't lose the revenue. So now you've productized it, right? You were forced to do it, but you hadn't necessarily thought it through. And so you're better off to plan it. And that's what, so why do you productize? It's gonna be something that has to be done. You're better off to plan it and think about it strategically and have somebody in your product development team kind of running with it and marketing it and packaging it up and making it very digestible for your customers rather than an engineer doing it. Because an engineer just thinks about it the way they use it. That protects the network. So
yeah,
that's kind of, to answer your question, that's the why. That's the why you need to productize, and you'll have to anyway.
Well, it seems like you need to be more proactive than reactive, right? You need to go ahead and get it before you get attacked, and then you're calling up saying I got attacked. We might as well go ahead and get on top of it.
But, well, yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, well, it's not even if you get attacked. It's see, you might lose revenue without ever getting attacked because you don't have the requirement. You're not filling the needs of your customer. So a lot of customers that need it for compliance, they don't get attacked either. They just need it for like insurance or compliance or whatever. So you've lost that revenue, not because you got an attack, but because you didn't fill that need for your customer. So so that's where the danger comes in. And if you don't prepare for it, so not all ISPs can do what Lumen or AT&T can do, right? They can fix any problem with a couple $1 million, right? They just throw money at it, they buy whatever, and they fix it. Not the mid-range tier 2, 3 ISPs, they don't have that kind of money. So they got to figure out something that's not going to put them in bankruptcy, that's going to keep them relevant, that they can at least make some, and it has to be profitable. Lumen or AT&T, they can lose money on DDoS all day long, but they're going to sell long haul services, they're going to sell IP services, they're going to sell SD-WAN services, right? So they're going to make it up on the back end. So a small ISP doesn't have that luxury, right? So they either need to basically make it affordable, make sure that they don't kill themselves with labor and CapEx costs, and then make it so that the customers buy it, right? The customers see the value.
Yeah. And I know, Alex, you talked about the sort of DIY, do-it-yourself version of this. What do you think are the challenges of DIY and productization of DDoS protection as a whole?
I think it's, creating a DDoS product is not as simple as it may sound, right? Because you do need a product manager. You need to hire a few people, first of all. Like a lot of ISPs handle DDoS through their network operations center as opposed to a security operations center. And Vanessa can tell you how much, how many resources you need and how much it's going to cost. But in general, you can think of it as a $500,000 investment a year to maintain that crew. And that's just on the people side, right? Then, it's not just buying a service or an appliance. You need those things. And then on top of that, you need to create all the processes in place in order for you to run a DDoS practice successfully. How do you attend to problems, and how do you sell this thing? There's a lot of things that go in place.
Yeah,
and Josie, just based off of that, what Alex just said, we have a customer right now. We have a customer right now that I am in the process of selling one of these solutions with the on-prem device, whatever. They are, it's an ISP. They're trying to deploy several different services. They're doing endpoint security, they're doing SD-WAN, they're doing private cloud. They want to do DDoS and perimeter security. The first product that they have deployed right now is perimeter security. They launched it. They don't have a sale. They didn't really productize it to the sales team. They don't have a product manager. They have one of the engineers kind of running it. And apparently the product is great. Perimeter security goes hand in hand with IP transit, because you want perimeter of if it's for your office or whatever, you want to make sure you're protected. They have the ability to see if the customer is getting hacked. They actually have data. They can say to the customer, look, I saw that somebody intruded on your corporate network. This is what happened. They haven't sold any. They don't know why they're not selling any. And it's like, it's not because the product's not good. It's not because the
Right.
technology is not good, but it's not productized. The sales team doesn't know how to sell it, right? They're afraid of it. Then they tried to hire like a little intern guy to kind of smile and dial. That didn't work, right? And so they're concerned about adding DDoS to that and having the same problem, right? And then adding the SD-WAN and then adding the cloud. So all this stuff that's outside of what they're currently used to doing, which is IP transit, that's the thing. If you don't plan for it, just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to sell it, right? And then it's like, should we have even done this? Maybe nobody wants it. I guarantee you, if people knew that they were getting hacked and you could show them a report that, hey, by the way, these guys just went in and where they didn't belong, they would buy your service. But obviously, you're not getting the message across.
What advice are
So
you
that's
giving
why
them?
I always talk about like a franchise McDonald's model, right?
Oh yeah.
So the reason people, entrepreneurs or aspiring business owners, they go with a franchise model is that it's a blueprint. It's already proven that it works. So you don't have to start from scratch. And, and in essence, that's what you're looking at over here.
Yeah. So I mean, what advice are you giving them? Are you just keep at it? I mean, what are you telling them? Because I'm sure they're turning.
What am I telling them?
Yeah. What advice are you giving them?
Well, okay. So one of the things that we offer is full product, like turnkey productization, right? So we will help you package. So we'll look at your customer base. We will say, okay, what's the average price you're paying for an internet circuit? Let's say it's a 100 meg circuit. Let's say that's $500 a month or something.
Right.
And we figure you can charge a 25% increase in your overall spend. The customers will tolerate that. So let's say they're spending $500, they might spend an extra $100 to pay for DDoS protection on that same pipe, right? So then you go through and you look through all the customers and you set up little packages. You come up with some kind of promo deal. And at the beginning, you don't want to be making $1 million on each one. You want to just prove the concept that you can sell it. So you need to just get it out there, start getting some reference customers. If with our product, we provide the portal and things like that. That portal within itself, we consider that kind of a product because it gives customers visibility into the network. We tell them, like, charge $50 a month just for the portal. It sets you apart from other ISPs and gives them like their own little SolarWinds. Then you can add DDoS on top of that. Then you can add application protection on top of that. And then, like I said, it becomes consumable, snackable, kind of, like every ISP, every customer of an ISP, even the small guys, not including residential, they can afford $50 to $100 extra a month. They can afford it. If they're paying X, $100 more is nothing. And then we show the customers, we show the ISPs that if you get 100 customers paying an extra $100 a month, you've paid for your entire investment, you're paying for our SOC services, you're paying for whatever you got, and you've got, not only have you gotten, you've got break even, so now you're making money. You've grown your portfolio, you've grown your stickiness with your customers. It's harder for them to leave you. If you just IP, they can leave you. Now you've got their security, you've got their application protection, you've got, maybe they have some other sort of perimeter security. So, and by the way, the model is the same. Like, what we teach people to do with DDoS, it is cookie cutter for other services that are considered security. So it's just the approach that you make, right? You gotta train your salespeople on how, but not how to sell it, like how great our technology is. It's, Mr. Customer, this is what I'm providing you, right? This is gonna make your life so much easier, right? I mean, hey, by the way, you're not gonna be fired because if something happens, you're covered, right?
Right.
Well,
and we talked about that, like in terms of like supplementing revenue and revenue generation in today's ISPs versus what Alex, you said, like in the 90s, like it's completely changed to what it was in terms of supplementing that revenue.
Yeah. I mean, not to date myself, but back in the day, in the late 90s, Zen and I used to sell DS3s for 45 grand. And you heard me right, it's $45,000 for a DS3. And today at home, I get a 500 meg fiber optic based service, internet access here. And I think I pay $60 a month. So we've come a long way. So the revenue attrition that comes with that is out of this world, you know. And
Yeah.
every year it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and you're like, how you make money on this?
Yeah.
And they're not. Actually, the decrease in ARPU is an average of 15-20% for a typical average ISP. So
Mhm.
if you're losing 15 to 20% ARPU, you know, then how do you make that up? So you got to come up with new products, you know,
Mhm.
cybersecurity being one of them,
Right.
because it does add to the bottom line.
Right. Well,
And Vanessa, oh, sorry.
on top of that, so Alex and I, one of the things Alex and I saw is that, you know, the first go around when bandwidth prices dropped like a rock,
Yeah.
security wasn't that hot yet, you know, maybe firewall, whatever. So what did people do? They went out and added CDN services. That was value added bandwidth. So if bandwidth was going below $1 a meg, well, you could put CDN and make it go faster and save you money, whatever, and charge $2 for the CDN, right? So it was a way to get that extra dollar to add value to that IP to make it that much more. Now CDN's almost at zero, you know, and so what's the next place you're going to get it? Security services, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's natural progression.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask Vanessa from an operations angle, the SOC. Can we get, you probably get a lot of questions because you've got a bird's eye view into what is the SOC. So, I mean, can you actually, look and evaluate and attack and tell us a little bit about what you see from that angle that nobody else really gets to see?
Okay, so from operation angle or even on the solution angle, we are working with a lot of ISP clients, and one of the challenge with their productizations is really coming from balancing between the network resources and the purpose of the existing DDoS appliance, and also the customer's requirement, because a lot of appliances now are being positioned for protecting the ISP's infrastructure. But if it need to turn into a business and sell it to the customers, and the issue with productization that Alex and also Zen mentioned are going to be a challenge for the organization itself. So it is really a challenging job for the product manager to juggle with the requirement from the customers, from the sales, and balance it with what the network team needed for their initial purpose. So with this operation, from operation angle, the resources required to really support such a service, it will require at least 8 minimum individuals. Okay, if you're running 24/7. So with this type of resources, and you will need to invest quite a lot of money just to run the SOC. And that's why when we are talking about productization and the franchise model, this is something that we should be recommending our client to look out for. Is if you are able to find a vendor that is able to give you some sort of support back to back, then it's something going to be really helpful for the organization to reduce the cost on running that service itself.
And then Zen, I'm going to throw this one up because I know you love the funnel. Okay, this is your favorite. This is your favorite thing. Do you want to quickly talk us through the quick process of the POP and the funnel?
Well, okay, so this picture right here is just shows. It goes back to one of the things that Alex was talking about on-prem versus cloud-based versus inline. So majority of whether you're an ISP or an enterprise, whatever, you're going to be picking up your bandwidth at a POP, or an exchange place where there are POPs, and so just the nature of how the internet works. If you're let's say in Ashburn or in San Jose or Los Angeles, those POPs are major cornerstones of the internet, and in those hubs you have all, at the very top you have all the different networks kind of peering together and hanging out, and bandwidth's coming in. And if you look to the different slices of that funnel there, then there's like the peering layer, and then there's the what do I say that the edge layer, what is that? The deployment layer, then it's your distribution layer, whatever. And so you might have, so up above at the POP, there might be multiple hundred gigs of bandwidth that's going around there that can come towards your infrastructure. But the
Yeah.
upstream coming from your routers to your closest peers might be 40 gig, right? So then you have customers that go out and they buy a 100 gig DDoS box and they put it in their network. Now that box can do 100 gig. It can probably crunch that much data at that point in time, but it will never get a chance to, because the minute you get towards about 30 gig of traffic, you start filling up the upstream pipes, right? So so the minute that happens, you either have to do one of two things. Either you have to hopefully go to your upstreams and no route everything so that it doesn't get to you, no route the customer that's under attack. So now you're no longer mitigating, you're just getting rid of that customer. You don't need a DDoS box to do that. And then, or you're using some kind of cloud service to send all that away from your POP. So in our scenario, we do true hybrid where you have the box and you have our cloud mitigation. So in this scenario, in that funnel, all that red bad traffic that's coming in, that would be announced out of one of our scrubbing centers, along with that green, which is the good stuff, and it would hit our POP, which is much bigger. And then what we would pass through is the green, which is the good traffic, clean traffic, via GRE tunnel, which it does two things. One, it helps mitigate the attack, but two, it gets away all that congestion away from your network, away from your POP. You don't want, like, so the problem with having a box only is that you still have to let the devil come to your house and you have to fight him there and hope you win, rather than hope that we're like the bouncer at your party. Like we're down the street and we're before they even come in your house, we're bouncing them away and then only letting the people that are on the guest list in, right? So
I love that analogy.
So that's this whole scenario here. So that's a lot of times people saying, oh, do I do cloud or do I do network? There's pros and cons for both. For an ISP, if you're going to be productizing, you need probably both. But depends where you're at in your ISP journey, right? Sometimes you just want monitoring and no routing. That's sometimes enough.
Well, and that kind of brings us to our closing thoughts, or why Nexusguard? And it sounds like true hybrid obviously is the ultimate solution. So I will throw this one to Alex. Why Nexusguard?
I'll be glad to cover that one. Nexusguard really was the first and still is probably the only managed security service provider, MSSP, focused on DDoS for carriers, telcos, ISPs. And this concept started probably 4 or 5 years ago, and is evolved into what it is today, which is like the McDonald's franchise model that includes technology, people, and process. So we're not just selling a box, we're also not just selling a service. It's all of the above, plus the people and the processes that come with it, so that you can get your hamburger shop up and running very quickly. In a matter of 3 to 4 months, you have yourself a DDoS practice that's operational, with multi-tenant portals and white label and certifications of your SOC, of your NOC personnel to become a SOC, and it's a solution that simply works. And, so I do encourage people to take a look at it if they're looking to make any changes to their DDoS posture this year, not just in terms of getting proper protection for their own network, but also, as we talked about in this webinar, about productizing and monetizing, making sure that you do this right. And not, as the example that Zen provided, you can add services, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to be successful productizing. We've been doing it for more than 12 years. We know how to productize and make money on DDoS, so we can help companies do that.
Yeah. Vanessa, do you have any closing remarks on Nexusguard from the operations point of view?
Yes, I do. Coming from operation angle, my wish is everything can be automated, right? So I don't need to train up my guys. And one of the things that Nexusguard do is we have our own development team, and therefore we continue to enhance our platform. And one of the suite that we introduced lately is the smart detection and smart filter. It utilizes the AI machine learning methodology to do the automation of the attack detection without the need of doing the threshold based type of detection set up by the ISP itself. And the machine is able to recommend when an attack comes in. And on top of the detection, we also have a countermeasure that is automatically generated by the system. Again, is using the AI engine itself. It's going to create filters for the customers that you are protecting automatically. And this is one of the things that you can see why Nexusguard is someone is different, is that we will not be satisfied with what we have. We continue to develop and evolve and make the product easier for our partner to use.
That's fantastic. I love that. So Zen, I'll throw it to you for closing remarks. What are your overall thoughts of why Nexusguard? Let's see your last sales pitch.
Why not? As like what Alex said and what Vanessa said, it's kind of like this. So Alex and I both come from years of just selling network first. So we were selling the network layer. We understand the network layer. We understand the CSP model. That's what we work for. The next logical progression is securing the network layer, right? So now understanding where DDoS fits in and understanding the problems of our clients, our ISP, CSP clients. Like I was saying, we don't sit there and go to everybody like that commercial they used to have for software. 500 it is. Like, we don't necessarily just try to sell you a box. You need a 100 gig box. No, you don't. You might not. Sometimes I talk to small little wireless ISPs that are just starting out. All they need from us is visibility. So we sell them monitoring, remote flow monitoring. It's a very simple, small package, and then with auto no routing. And then we've created, actually, I will give Alex credit on this because he was bugging me for years. We created this little token model where you have one mitigation if you need it, right? So you just, so that way we're not charging you a ton of money every month for something you're not going to use. You pay for one mitigation that it's like rollover minutes, keep forever until you use it for an attack. So that's like your golden ticket. So you might be no routing, but you got like a special customer and you want to make sure that you take care of them. Well, use your token, right? So we've created that for those type of customers that fit that need. We are, if somebody tells me, and it depends on the level of engineers. Sometimes I talk to an ISP and the engineers know what they're doing. And look, you can mitigate DDoS. If you know what you're doing, you can mitigate DDoS with some detection and some fancy BGP community strings up stack. You can get the job done. You don't need to buy $1 million Arbor or RBox or whatever. But it all depends. And I always ask them, what do you want to do? What's your goal? Is your goal to provide services? Is your goal to, if your goal is just to keep the network up, then I have a solution for you. If your goal is to productize and sell a ton of this, I have a solution for you. So really, we look at ourselves as security consultants, right? We come in and we're really assessing your business and your needs. And then, it doesn't do me any good to oversell you, because it's not gonna work for you. You're not gonna be happy and you're not gonna grow. So, and then you'll probably talk badly about me. So it doesn't behoove me to do that. We have a vested interest in our customers succeeding. So, so if you're a small ISP just starting out, great, I'll sell you monitoring. If you're successful, you'll probably buy the next thing from me, right? On the on-ramp, you'll buy the full, origin protection services. You might buy, application services. You might end up reselling that because you want to provide that as a product to your customer. So wherever you are in your journey, we can help. And that's kind of, that's what I would say. Why us? Because that's the way we approach it.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. I love it. That was great. I think we do have some questions if you guys want to stick around. Let me just pop in and see what I got here. Let's see, I think I did have a couple of Q&As here. Okay. What is really happening with the DDoS extortion attacks? How do you find the people who are doing these attacks? Who wants to take this one?
Alex, I'll take it if you don't want to take it, Alex.
Go ahead.
Well, so
You're on a roll.
there is no like internet police, right? It's the it is the wild wild west for a lot of things. So
Right.
really, that's why you have to go out and you know hire your own protection, right? We are, we're helping to enable you to do your own protection. But like I have a friend in they have business in Honduras. For their business, they have to have a guy in a what do you call it, crow's nest with an AK-47 so that people don't rob their store, because police aren't going to do anything, right? You have to take care of yourself. Same thing internationally. Who you call? You call the FBI, you call the CIA, you call Interpol, and then you prove it. And then what? Okay, let's say it's a Russian guy. Think Putin's going to let you go in there and extradite some kid? No. So it's like you can find out who it is. There's a big faction of this that is organized crime, right? That you've got like kind of like Russian mafia, Chinese mafia, whatever it is. You've got organized crime there where there's these rings that are trying to extort people. And then you've got the other faction of just like what we call them script kiddies, right? The kids that are just screwing around. Now those kids are usually caught because they're not very smart, and they like to brag that did you see, well, did you hear about, was those kids that took down, they threatened Sony, was it, so the CEO of Sony with a DDoS attack or whatever, and then they talked about it, and then they also threatened, like, I don't know, that it was a personal threat or whatever. They got caught real fast because they couldn't show it, right? So you can catch these people. They have been caught, but sometimes even if you know who they are, how are you going to get them, right? I mean, so really you just want to, that's why we call it mitigation. You're mitigating your risk. You're mitigating the damage that can be caused to you because you have no other choice, right? You don't want your house to burn down. You might lose, a wall in the family room, but you put the fire out at least, right? I mean,
Right.
and the fire department didn't come to help you, and that's kind of where you're at. So, I hate to say it, but a lot of the things as well that we see is if all the networks, if every person was running their network with best practice, meaning they had everything up to date, they hardened all their machines, they made sure they didn't have a bunch of cloud servers sitting there they forgot about. DDoS attacks would be very hard because you have to basically compromise someone else's machines, and people make it very easy. So I mean, that's really more, rather than find the people that are doing it, right? It's like, don't leave your network unlocked so that people can come in and steal it. And that's kind of what I would say the advice is. But yeah, you really don't have a lot of recourse to go get the guys that are doing it.
Yeah, that was one of the main questions that we had, and then we had one more question. DDoS device is it a hardware or software package?
Now let's go ahead.
Either one. I mean, there's is the question about ours or in general?
Is a generalization, but I would definitely answer it as it pertains to Nexusguard.
Yeah. So from a Nexusguard perspective, it's a service. Okay, it's not a box. It's a service. It's a fully managed solution that happens to include a Dell MX7000, but that's what it is. But just from a general perspective, people have the option to buy an appliance, like a hardware appliance, or a service, a cloud-based service for protection. Those generally are the two options available.
Okay, great. I think that is all the questions that we have. I don't have any more live Q&A. Let me just pop in here. No more open questions. These were all answered. So yeah, that's it for now. Thanks everyone for submitting your questions and for the live chats. We love that. As you can see, we like to talk about things that are current events as it applies to what Nexusguard can help with as a security service provider. I'd like to thank Vanessa. I appreciate you coming on from an ops standard and angle. I really appreciate that. Zen, you're great as always. And of course, Alex. And these three are available to talk to you in our Nexusguard meeting room as part of Metro Connect. If you're watching and attending the show, definitely stop by, send us a chat. We're open for answering any questions, scheduling a meeting, all the things. We're here. Again, we have trivia night tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday, we're back again for our second webinar with Alex and Zen at 4 p.m. Eastern. And Thursday, we're doing another webinar with Alex, Zen, and another Nexusguard employee, Donnie, who will be joining us as well. Again, that's at 4 p.m. Eastern. So thank you, panelists, for joining us. This was fun. And we'll have this up for anyone to view. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions. We're available.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Lisa. All right, bye, Alex.